Good day, everyone. In conjunction with ICW and Asean Super 8 Virtual Connect exhibition, we would like to welcome you to this webinar titled What Causes House Prices to Remain Unaffordable? Before we get started, I'm Daniel, your MC for today, and I would like to mention some housekeeping rules for this webinar. Live discussion between audiences is available at the Slido. If you wish to ask any question to our speakers, please leave your question at the Slido Q&A box. If there's any internet disruption during the webinar, please be patient and try to sign in again. Let's have a look on today's program. We will start off the presentation by Surveyor Nazir Mohamad Nor, Vice President Quantity Surveying of Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia, RISM, followed by Datuk Zaini Yusof, Executive Vice President, SP Setia, and final presentation by Dr. Suraya Ismail, Director of Research at Khazanah Research Institute. Q&A session will follow after the presentation. This webinar aims to end at 12:45 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator for today is Dr. Nur Azia Datuk Kion, lecturer in the Built Environment University of Reading, Malaysia, founder of Be People Sdn Bhd and co-founder of Infinity FM Sdn Bhd. Before we proceed further, let me briefly share about our moderator, Dr. Nur Azia Datuk Kion. She initiated Be People Sdn Bhd to transform the built environment and construction professional services digitally, providing limitless job opportunities to professionals around the world and supporting built environment and construction students in their studies. But without further ado, I hand over the floor to the moderator, Dr. Nur Azia Datuk Kion. Dr. Nur Azia, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for the introductions, Mr. Daniel. Good morning and hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, What Causes House Prices to Remain Unaffordable? And thank you very much for spending your time with us today. And I'm delighted to be invited to moderate our sessions today, which will be delivered by three distinguished speakers, Surveyor Nazir Mohamad Nor, Datuk Zaini Yusof, and Dr. Suraya Ismail. They will present their exciting findings on what causes house prices to remain unaffordable. So now we will begin with the first speaker, Surveyor Nazir Mohamad Nor. So to introduce Surveyor Nazir Mohamad Nor, he is having degree in quantity surveying from UiTM. With over 19 years of professional experience, Surveyor Nazir has undergone training on the preparations of the CIDB Malaysia Tender Price Index at the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors in the UK in 2016. Currently, Surveyor Nazir is being seconded to BCISM Sdn Bhd starting July 2019 as General Manager. He has been involved with many initiatives that influence the business environment of the Malaysian construction industry, which include the launching of SIPA in 2013, setting up of National Construction Cost Centre, publication of the second edition Malaysian Standard Method of Measurement for Civil Engineering Works, publications of CIDB Construction Law Report, and he was also involved in the establishment of BCISM Sdn Bhd. So he will be sharing with all of us today how material costs affect house prices. Surveyor Nazir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. Thank you, Dr. Azia, for the introduction. Thank you, CIDB Malaysia and ICW 2021 for giving me the opportunity to share my outcome of survey on how material costs affect house price. And thank you to all of you for joining this session. The title is from an article from is written by BCISM or Building Cost Information Services Malaysia in 2020. And the data in this article are mostly taken in 2019 and 2020. The study also was conducted using data that easily available through published data such as from KRI, Khazanah Research Institute, NAPIX, and a combination of the data analyzed by BCISM team, and as well as from our team experience. I will speak on at the macro level, and we focus on the material cost perspective. And I'm sure Datuk Zaini will speak more on detail as a prominent developer Of course, Dr. Suraya will elaborate more on the policy and other factors that we contribute to the increase of house price. This is just quote that supply and demand is a framework we use to explain, predict the equilibrium price and quantity of goods. A point of market supply curve show the quantity that suppliers are willing to sell for a given price. Okay, this is my outline presentation that I will cover 5 areas. Firstly, introduction. Secondly, I will share the cost composition to build a house, situation of house supply and house affordability. Thirdly, I will show how much material cost to build a house as a guide, and what is the hidden cost that you must keep in your mind. And fourthly, I will talk on the factor affecting material price and also residential price as a generally. And lastly, I will show some hypotheses. If all material goes up about 5, maybe 10 or 50%, how much that we contribute to the house price. Housing continue to remain out of reach of the majority population, as I think a policymaker stay unable to solve the nation housing problem, despite the many policy that have been triggered by, I think, from the last 40 years old. This is not from me, this I quote from Khazanah Research Institute. So Khazanah Research Institute said in the report that a little had improved to make housing affordable between 2002 and 2016. Which that the KRI said that maybe part of T10 said maybe due to the market and inability to respond the supply drop. The KRI study provided as a background study for the national housing policy for 2019 to 2025 show affordable house price continue to rise, and with a median market price of 188,000 in 2016 compared to 165,000 just 2 years previously. Despite continuous demand for such house, newly launched housing unit price below 200K accounted for less than 20% of the total unit that launched between the same period. That is a report from KRI. Okay, we wonder how home price are advertised and what costs, what other costs are included in. The house price consists of cost composition, namely building costs, payable to architects, quantity surveyor, engineer, and other consultants, legal charges for selling completed buildings, agent commissions on selling property units, advertising costs. Also must consider contingency to cover some increased building costs and unforeseen problem. Also interest on finance to cover cost of money invested in the building during the construction period. Situation of the house supply is shown 84.2. This is from NAPI. 84.2% is for residential and services, service apartment, 10.2% for shop and stratified or strata title of the unit, 3.4% for Soho, and 2.2% for others house. There was oversupply of residential and service apartment according to the NAPIC report in 2020. They were unsold about 54.2% of the high-rise unit, 27.8% of their house, 12.6% of semi-detached or semi-detached house, and 5.4% for other house type. Terrace house price under 200K are most sought after with the lowest number of unsold unit. House under 200K only contribute 7% to unsold house, which are considered very small compared to the terrace house, which are priced price higher. Home under 200K are very popular with residents. However, prices have risen, including home in this range. Now, talking about affordability, most of the properties launched in 2016 were priced above 250,000, with most of the new launch property being between 500K to 1 million ringgit. This type of house cannot be affordable by Malaysian. The number of affordable home defined as 250,000 and below has been on the decline since 2007. And when developers turn to luxury market in hope that of profiting from property booms that last 5 years, and aid also by a soft loan, and so speculation grew very rapidly during this time to raise a property price. Among the reason for decline in the affordable housing in the government is the government Malaysia My Second Home MM2H program that attract wealthy expatriate, which has led to acceleration of construction for properties priced at $500,000 and above. The study found that some, not all, I don't think is SPST, some others developers also resistant to the new technologies, preferring to rely on the labor-oriented construction method. Lack of supply is seen as a main cause that has driven house price soaring over the past 10 years. As a study conducted by CIDB, I think 2016, found that material made up about 71% of construction for residential, followed by 31% for labor, and plant and machinery made up 2% of the cost. This slide, I would like to show the breakdown on the different elements of house and area costs as a guide only. And for more detail or specific costs, I think a specific cost is estimated is needed. The superstructure costs, such as the wall, roof beam, external cladding, we take up about of the cost. Sometimes around 30% of the total cost. Brick or block is typically the cheapest method of construction. If you're using timbers or timber frame, the price maybe can increase by around 50%. The foundation or floor structure, we usually the next largest cost after the superstructure. It is usually fair static, unless the plot of your land is on the slope or unusual poor quality. And the average cost for constructing a roof is around 20,000 to 30,000. Depend to the scale or the type of tile that you use. The cost for kitchen can vary widely. We average about cost 20,000 to 30,000. And for bathroom, it can range from 10,000 for small simple room to 30,000 for more luxurious affair. The cost for wiring of house is around 10,000 for a smaller home, and can rise to around 25,000 for the large home. And also consultant fee, such as architects, engineers, surveyors, for new build, maybe about 8% to 50% of the overall cost. When setting a budget, please remember to keep aside a suitable amount to cover this fee. And for hidden costs, I think I will just touch a little bit, and maybe I think Datuk Zaini will touch more on this one. There are a number of other fees that we also need to keep in mind on the hidden costs, like planning permission is a must, which currently about I think 1% if approved at the first opportunity. And fee for building regulation, application and inspection can cost up to 10,000. Where there can be at the cost for site surveys, structural engineers, reports, why can be around 5,000 each. Demolition or waste clearance from site, which can cost several thousand ringgit, and also landscaping costs. Legal fee, tax will be very dependent on the value of the projects or the value of the land. Self-built insurance can cost around 1% of the overall cost. Land price, very widely depending on the size and the condition of the plot, whether not any planning permission attached to it, or of course where is the located. The design we play a major factors. Why a simple brick and block construction is relatively easy to calculate. Using different materials such as a timber frame or metal cladding, we change the overall cost. Fittings and fixtures, we also play part of the final cost. A basic bathroom from a major retailer will cost a few thousand ringgit, while a bespoke fixtures or reclaim and refurbished item can cost more. The price of building material can affected by internal factors and by external factors. Internal factors include government policies, the imposition of goods and service tax, petrol, DC price and electricity tariff, housing and property policies such as property gain tax, the decision of foreign purchase on the affordable housing programs, BLR, the interest rate, supply and demand in the property markets, import restriction on specific construction materials, long-term development plans, economic condition, and the confidence of investor. Four external factors include international market force affecting the price of the fuels and raw material, including coal, scrap, iron, and copper. For residential, price also can be affected by internal factor and also external factors. Internal factor include government policies, imposition of goods and service tax, petrol, DC price and tariff electric due to rationalization of fuel subsidies, housing and properties policy such as property gains tax, the restriction of foreign purchase and the affordable housing programs, the interest rate, BLR, supply and demand in the property market. Land acquisition policy and conversion process. Of course, the biggest part is land cost and cost of construction material and labors and security features. Normally, home buyer, they don't buy only home, they buy also security features. And for external factors, include foreign interest in taking up properties, either for speculation or through promotional scheme, such as second home. ownership for foreigners and for certain category such as high-end residential property. Okay, I would like to show the hypothesis that we did for proposed 60 unit of double-story terrace in Selangor. This just a hypothesis. I think we did on 2020 data. So there are A, B, C, D, and E. A more construction cost, we call GCC, including building costs, external work, and preliminaries. And the B for sale and service tax, in 6%, professional fee, we see about 6%. And then SST also land cost for the purpose of this hypothesis, we consider that 50 ringgit per square feet. And E, contribution to local authorities, and F, miscellaneous, some like survey fee and utility, marketing and legal fees. And G, we put as part of contingency. So all A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, all overall cost we call gross development cost. I think we call GDC. So overall cost GDC about 29 million. So total per unit about 493,000. So we consider that in this hypothesis we consider that all material, not only one material. We consider all material that increase for this purpose study about 70 category of material that we consider for this study, for this hypothesis, including cement, stay-bar, bricks, painter, plasterer, concrete, anti-sanitary fitting. And so for the study also we use weightage that material about 76%, labor about 31%, and for plant and machinery 2%. This only for construction only, exclude profit, exclude M&E, exclude civil engineering work. Totally for building costs only. And from this, if material increase about 5%, so GDC we increase about 2%. So if material goes up to 10%, so GDC we increase about 3%. And if a material go up to 50%, all materials have about 5%. We contribute to the increase of the material, or GDC. So that means I can say that this hypothesis say that a 5% increase of material is an increase of 2% of GDC, and 10% increase of material result in increase of 3% of GDC, and 50% increase of material result in increase of 5% of GDC. As a conclusion, building material increase, we have of course effect on the overall cost for the development, which later translate to the developer as high cost or selling price. However, the increase can always be checked and not more than 5% of gross development price, and a more competitive price should be offered by a developer. I think I will end my presentation, and we will go later on the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suraya Nazir, for the presentations. It is very informative and insightful, and actually answered the topic that we are discussing today on what causes houses price to remain unaffordable from the construction's point of view, and a little bit on development point of view. So let's move on to the next speaker of today. So let me introduce you to the next speaker, Datuk Zaini Yusof. So Datuk was the Chief Operating Officer for INP Group prior to being appointed as the SP Setia's Divisional General Manager before assuming the role of Executive Vice President. Datuk Zaini carries with him 33 years of experience providing fiscal strategic operations leadership in various corporations, including Penang City Council, Asia Control System Impact, and Shimizu Corporations. A civil engineer, he earned a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Memphis State University, Tennessee, USA, and currently the Vice President of RISM and Deputy Chairman of RISM Selangor. So Datuk, I hand over the sessions to you. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Nor for the lengthy and kind introduction. Okay. My fellow speakers, Dr. Suraya Ismail and Surveyor Nazir Mohamad Nor, and ladies and gentlemen. Actually, the subject matter today for today's topic is really close to my heart. Over the years, we have been talking about making the house affordable for everyone. And basically, everyone is talking about factors causing house prices to remain unaffordable until today. I've been in the industries for more than 35 years actually, and I've seen how the prices of housing escalates from. I just take one example. I bought my terrace house in Bandar Kinrara way back in 1991. It cost me only about 100,000. Whereas if I want to buy now in Bandar Kinrara for the same terrace houses, now the price that I have to pay is nearly 1 million.
Wow.
So you can see it is about 10 times as compared to the average income. Then, you know, when I was working, I first started my career as an engineer. I was drawing about 1,200, and I think when I purchased the house, I was getting about 1,500. And for everyone's info, now the fresh graduates, we are getting, I think, in the average industry. We are getting about 2,500 or maximum 3,000 for a normal engineer. So the prices of housing doesn't really commensurate with the escalation with the increment of salary in Malaysia. So the salary only double, but the houses has become 10 times more as compared to 1991. Having said that, even though it is a far-reaching dream to own a decent house nowadays, everyone still need a roof on top of their heads. Even with the price escalation, Malaysian will find every ways and means to buy a house, which is quite evident in the next slide, which is quite evident in the survey done by NAPIC on market transaction of first half of 2021. There are about 140,000 transactions with residential leading the way by registering about 65.8%, which is about 92,017 units, followed by agriculture at 18.9%, and commercial transacted about 7.5%. In terms of value, residential registered about 35 billion, followed by commercial about 10.93 billion, and industrial about 6.8 billion. Next. Okay, there's significant increase of both residential and commercial sector in first half of 2021 as compared to first half of 2020. 92,017 transactions worth about 35.51 billion recorded in first half of 2021, increased by about 22.2%. in terms of volumes and about 34.7% in terms of value. And the sales performance for the new launches recorded at 24.7%, which is better compared to first quarter of 2020. So I think the improvement of in sales performance is probably attributed to various measures by the government, namely a home ownership campaign, which will end in December 2021. But I foresee that the next 1.5 months until year end, there will be another surge of sales, basically to capitalize on the home ownership campaign, which will end by year end. And also another thing, I think government did give a waiver on RPGT, real property gain tax, which expedite the rush in sales as well. Next. Okay, enough with the statistic. I think Surveyor Nazir also mentioned a lot about statistics. So I would like to touch on the 6 hidden costs of buying a house. Later on, I will be touching on building a house. So before you could buy a house, so you have to put aside some allocations for these items, upfront fees and charges, utility deposit and charges, property tax, mostly on bank loan, and also the RPGT, and home insurance. Home insurance, I'm talking about MRTA. So before you purchase a house, normally you pay a lump sum amount. I would advise anyone who want to buy a house to purchase the MRTA, so that at least later on, if you pass away, so you won't trouble your next of kin, your wife, and also the children. So they'll be getting the house for free. So you have to pay a certain amount upfront. And then monthly maintenance and sinking fund for those buying stratified development like service apartments and condominiums. So you really have to put aside this amount, which is based on your unit, on your build-up area. And furnishing, renovation, and upkeep, especially some repair work, and pest control. Normally, people, when they buy the house, they don't allocate pest control. So to me, I would like to advise that, if you have to put aside on 6 months or a yearly basis, a pest control should be done, because you don't want your house to be infested by termite. Next. Okay, just now we touched on the hidden costs in buying a house. I will now touch the hidden costs in building a house. Okay, one might wonder why it is a lot cheaper to build a house in your kampong or village as compared to buying a house in a planned township like KL, Selangor, and other big cities. In kampong, if you put aside about, say, for example, about 500,000 or 600,000, you can get a very nice bungalow, a detached house, probably with a swimming pool as well. Whereas with that amount of money, you can only get a terrace house or a small apartment in the planned township in the cities. Why is that so? I will touch later on the reason resulting in the big discrepancies. Next. Okay, before we touch the hidden costs in building a house, I will take you through a journey on housing development process, so that after this, you will understand the process to become a developer, or if you decide to become one, at least I can charge a certain fees later, once I retire. I can give some advice as well. Okay, in terms of housing delivery system, actually it's quite complex in nature. The diagram shows the flow chart right from the land acquisition until delivery of vacant possession, that is giving the keys to the buyer. It involves compliance with various requirements, and it differs from federal, state, and local governments. It goes through different layers of approval, and to be frank with you, it is very time consuming depending on the local government. Right from the purchase of land, it may take about 2 years, before you can launch the first phase. It can vary from 2 years up to 4 years as well. Next. Okay, what is in the house price? I think Surveyor Nazir also touched a bit, on this one just now, but I will touch based on the developer's point of view. Generally, price equals to production costs and entrepreneur return on his investment. Total production cost includes the followings: land-related costs, which is about 15 to 20%, and development charges, capital contribution, regulatory fees, finance costs, management, admin, and marketing costs. Not forgetting, construction costs, which is about 50% to 60%. That's why if you build a house in village just now, you can half the price and you can get a very good, decent house. Professional fees. The pie chart shows the estimated cost component of housing development. Land constitute about 15 to 20%, construction about 50 to 60%, and profits for developers about 15 to 20%. But as you can see, during the pandemic, developers has already, give a lot of discount and also a lot of rebates. Some are even, cutting down to break-even level. So if you want to purchase, this is the right time actually. Next. Okay, one of the hidden costs is compliance costs. It is defined as money spent conforming to government policies, legislation, regulations. Compliance costs comes in different forms. Firstly is the capital base, such as land conversion premium, contribution charges, levies and fees. Secondly is the efficiency, reduction in net sellable areas. Normally in a township, I just take one example. If we develop a master layout plan of 1,000 acres, normally only about 40% or maximum 50% or 400 acres is sellable. The balance goes to infrastructure, open spaces, public amenities, and etc. So all of these costs, if we have to recalculate again, and it will be eventually transferred to the final selling price of the house. So delay, thirdly is the delay in time taken to get approval, which resulted in higher holding costs. Next. There are some key issues in resulting in high compliance costs. Firstly is over-regulation by authorities, reduced sellable land as a result of planning requirements, housing policies involving cross-subsidies, delays in getting approval, and as a result, prices have increased and affordability is being compromised. Next. Okay, on over-regulated issues, as you can see over here, under the legislation, there are no less than 16 acts that developer has to follow from federal, not to mention state policies and local authorities bylaws. There are regulations need to be adhered to by the developer. So later on, I can share the slides so that everyone will know what are the acts that we really have to follow. Next. Okay, I'm showing some hypotheses on sample summary of feasibility analysis. So this is from our Radar Institute. So this is to calculate in order to decide on what products to construct. I won't go into every single detail, but you can see all costs will be calculated before final decision could be made based on different options. So normally we will do these studies before we embark into any development. So in this case, assuming about 6 acres of plots with a profit margin of 15%, if we do service apartments, you know, and also as compared to if we were to do commercial land, we will get about 25% profits. Next. Okay, some of the calculations of land premium depending on various state rules. For example, Selangor, KL, Johor, and Penang. We take this. The different state got different way of calculating the premium. So this is how Selangor makes its income. Selangor is the richest state, you know, in Malaysia because of the premium paid by the developer. Okay, next. Okay, the table shows various approvals and permits required before approval could be obtained. The agencies are TNB, Indah Water, Consortium, Telco, Water Concessionaires, OSC Planning, KPKT on developer's license, and etc. You know, so so these are the various agencies that we have to deal with, you know, in order to come up with some payments. Next. Okay, as I mentioned just now, the net sellable land, you know, reduced after deducting the public amenities, road and drainage and utilities, which roughly will be about 40 to a maximum 50%, in order to create a more livable ecosystem for the resident, especially in township development, where more lands need to be surrendered for facilities, schools, hospitals, police station, fire station, market, community hall, places of worship, including graveyard, in compliance to the state planning guidelines. All of these, you know, there's some states, in fact, ask the developer to bina dan serah, build and hand over, like surau, masjid, you know. So all of these costs will go into the final calculation on the land general development cost of the selling price. Next. Okay, these are the planning guidelines which developers have to follow. All are covered under various planning guidelines for different purposes. That is under commercial, residential, industrial, and etc. You know, so all of this we have to follow all the garis panduan from by the states and also by the local authorities. Next. Okay, I did also touch on the cross subsidies based on the housing policies, which differs from state to state. Say, for example, in one development with the approved MLP master layout plan approval of 10,000 units, so 50%, which is about 5,000 units, will be mandated to build affordable homes, you know. So like in Selangor, we call it Rumah Selangorku. In KL, you know, they have affordable homes, as well as in Johor and also in Penang. So the affordable homes will be cross-subsidized by the normal units. That is the reason why normal units is much higher in terms of selling price. So as what I mentioned, 50% will go to the affordable homes. Next. So under the current affordable housing system, the majority led by private sector, actually, we are mandated to do that. So the quota also differs from state to state, and cross subsidies can be as much as 100,000 or between 10 to 20% per open market price unit. On Bumiputra quota can be as high as 50% in Selangor, and discount of 5% to 15%. Because in Johor, I think we have to give about 15% Bumiputra discount as compared to Selangor about 5%. In case the Bumi units are not sellable, actually currently there's no standard release mechanism. Not in all states, like in Selangor, I think they have one, and it is subjected, if you get the Bumi release, you will be subjected to penalty or levy before release could be obtained. Next. So under delay and uncertainties of approvals, it is part of the hidden cost as well. It affects project planning, implementation, as well as our cash flow. It also involves additional holding costs due to the finance costs. Next. Okay, the following table summarizes the compliance costs in relation to the gross development value, total development costs, and also developers' profit. As you can see, moving forward, it's not going to be easy to be a developer. The profit margin is really shrinking, and ultimately the buyer will be the final victim who has to pay the higher selling price. So, so we have to mitigate this in order to prevent this from happening. Next. In fact, talking about regulations governing the industry, there will be new and existing act that KPKT, Kementerian Perumahan, is looking at revising and upgrading. The act are as follows. That is under Commercial Development Act. There will be new introduction of Rental Tenancy Act. Strata Title Act will be revised, and Strata Management Act also will be revised, and as well as HDA, Housing Development Act. It is still in the drawing board, and hopefully they can formalize by next year to make it better for everyone, actually, developers as well as home buyers. Next. Okay, we did a pilot survey among the REDA members. For everyone's info, our REDA members, we got about nearly 1,800 members, that is developers throughout Malaysia. So we did some surveys to inquire on the increase of cost of doing business over the past 10 years, from 2008 to 2019. So these are the results. The survey revealed that according to the developers, housing policies for affordable housing and Bumiputra quota and discount were the top cost factors that have significantly impacted the project FIZI. Another significant compliance has negatively influenced project FIZI was land matters, especially on the development charges and also land conversion premium. And other significant compliance is the deposit and bank guarantee, and also the holding costs, followed by statutory contribution and land surrendering, and based on the planning requirements. Next. Okay, these are some of the additional costs due to the post-pandemic. So deposit paid to KPKT, local authorities and utilities companies, construction site compliance under Act 446, under the CLQ, the labor quarters. So developers have to really fork up, to spend a lot on this. Although the act was, being mandated about 3 or 4 years back, but only now I think authorities is making it very compulsory, and it really hit during the pandemic. Then this allowed to withdraw stakeholder sum cannot be released until all units are registered under a purchaser's name. Then payment of maintenance fees and sinking funds for the provisional blocks. Imposition of additional requirements by TNB, Bomber, and etc. This allowed claim or contribution paid to the state government to release the Bumi quota as an allowable expenditure. So I'll just leave with the one thought. Okay, all of these costs imposed by will eventually be paid by the end user, which in this case, the buyer themselves. It is you and I. I'm one of the buyer also, and something got to be done drastically to overcome this so that the hidden costs will be reduced. I think on radar side, being the NGO, we are trying our level best to engage with the stakeholders, especially government, at least to tackle the low-hanging fruits for the betterment of all Malaysian. If we can reduce the price, it will be good for us as well. With that, I thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So by Datuk presentation just now, he has basically answered the topic today from the developers or development's point of view. So moving on, I would like to invite our final speaker for today, Dr. Suraya Ismail. So to introduce Dr. Suraya, she is the Director of Research at Khazanah Research Institute with specific research projects on affordable housing, social housing, urban renewals, job creations, and living wage in the cities. She had advised the government of Malaysia in areas of housing, community development funds, national living costs, and so on. Before she joins the institute, she was a program director at King City, where she involved with the development of urban regeneration initiative through a public grants program. Prior to that, she was also the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment at University of Malaya and Head of Department of Quantity Surveying. Internationally, she has been working with various industries and countries, including the government of Netherlands, Australia, King of Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Malaysia. Over to you, Dr. Suraya.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Noor Azia. Fellow panelists, Datuk Zaini, SR Nazir, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share some of the things that we've done in Khazanah Research Institute. Just to let you know a little bit about us, we carry out research on pressing issues of the nation, and based on that research, recommend policies to improve the well-being of nations. So because the unaffordability of houses was such a major issue since 2014, my team then started to go through the issues surrounding the Malaysian housing industry and sector. And we do this through rigorous impartial analysis founded on data. We convene meetings and forums to illuminate the understanding of the issues, and we advocate the knowledge we acquire. So our research pillars are urban and regional development, inclusive and sustainable development, and growth and structural transformation. I wanted to bring this in because I wanted to expand our discussion today to show that the provision of adequate housing is critical for the growth and well-being of society. So the issue of housing is a multifaceted one, for it encompasses not only shelter, but also security, privacy, investment, and personal identity. At the same time, when we do other things in the Institute, I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by economists and sociologists and historians. Households, we do a lot of studies on households. And for households, you and I, ketua keluarga ataupun isi rumah, housing serves as both a major motivation for savings and a significant influence on consumption. And in addition, locational aspect of housing directly influence labor mobility and therefore human capital, economic growth and productivity. We must never underestimate the importance of this sector. Fortunately, the perception of housing as a key economic driver has yet to take root. Housing is too often seen by governments as a welfare issue, requiring the transfer of physical or as Datuk Zaini just mentioned just now, cross-subsidization, requiring the transfer of physical or financial resources to low-income households who are unable to house themselves adequately. And of course, as he also showed, such resources, however, are rarely adequate. As a result, government housing agencies limit their activities to direct housing provision for a small minority of potential beneficiaries, ignoring the interests of most of the population. So when we did our Making Housing Affordable in 2015, we can see data has shown us that there has been a growing concern among middle-income households regarding their capacity to purchase homes. So here we are going from the state of household when we were very poor last time in 1970s and up till now where we are going into more developed nation. And yet the middle-income people in our country cannot savor the growth and kekayaan negara, because one of the issues is housing. So hence we did a real study on housing. Then for the purpose of this presentation, I will draw upon two of our reports. One is our Making Housing Affordable report that we did in 2015, but we also did another report, and you can download this from our website, which is Rethinking Housing Between State, Market and Society. This was a special report for the formulation of the National Housing Policy, as mentioned by SR Nazir just now, Suraya Nazir. For the second report, which is Rethinking Housing, I led 20 researchers, as well as in partnership with the Kementerian of KPKT and Jabatan Perumahan Negara, to do a nationwide study. We went to each state to understand the housing market in each state. And based on that research, we then gave policy prescriptions, options to the government, irrespective whether they accept or not, but alhamdulillah, they've accepted most of it, or if not all of it. But it was because on the data we got on the ground. And I must thank a lot of, I think some of the professional bodies were part of our focus group discussion, of course, REHDA and CIDB. And I'd like to thank for that all-of-nation approach for trying our best to satisfy the growth impetus of the country, which is contingent as well on the housing sector. I'd like to really go into affordability as a definition first. How do we measure affordability? Because lately there seem to be issues surrounding this cropping up again. So there are three basic ways of doing this. One is the median multiple. There are about 15 indicators, but the most popular or the most used are these three. The median multiple, median house price of 3 times or less than the median annual household income. Secondly, the housing cost burden, housing expenditure that is less than 30% of household income. Now this accounts for your cost of living. This also accounts for your maintenance of your house, but it accounts for the role of finance. Median multiple does not take into account the role of finance. It does not have the interest rate calculation put into it. Residual income is basically, what is your residual income that is sufficient to service monthly mortgage obligation? Inilah penipuan yang paling besar bagi saya, residual income. Because if you then just look at your monthly mortgage obligation, if someone were to do double generation punya loan, then your monthly obligation will be lower. But it doesn't mean your house that you buy is cheaper. So some measurements of affordability do mask the way in which housing is getting more expensive than it should be. Sorry. Oh, there you are. Therefore, let me show you an example of the maximum price of an affordable home under the three types of housing, for the three types of measurement. If you look at the median multiple, which is what we are using, as well as the World Bank, as well as Harvard University, because it shows the actual price as compared to your income. It doesn't have the burden of finance, which caused the American mortgage finance crisis. So this is something which is clear and direct. But even then, ladies and gentlemen, look at how it distorts the pricing for residual income and housing cost burden. It skews house prices to the right, meaning if you use housing cost burden, your affordable range can go up to 600,000. If you use residual income, it can really go up to more than 600,000 when basically for the N40 income level, when we do the 3 times median multiple, it would be between just below 200,000 to a bit less than 400,000. Now, this is the interesting 2 period of house price index. We got this from NAPIC. And when we look at the CAGR of house price index, it appears that back in 2009, things became a little bit unfortunate for our country. And for us, this is the real, I suppose, elephant in the room. Why did it go up so rapidly? What was the cause of this? And is it real? So why do we need to worry when there's rapid price escalation? In this instance, I would like to quote a very influential paper by Bernard Kengertler in 1999, states that an asset bubble exists whenever the market price of a given asset S differs from its fundamental value T, defined as the present value of dividends or returns the asset is expected to generate. Put in layman's term, if your CAGR is about 10-15% for this period, even the stock market people will come and invest in our Malaysian housing sector. If the CAGR was about 3.1, then this is what we call something which is sustainable for you and I as purchasers, as homeowners to buy. But if we start treating our house prices or our housing industry as a stock market, which is what is happening here, then definitely we will all reap the burden of an asset bubble, even worse, house price bubble. And this will bagi harga rumah akan mungkin merudum. So when we actually put into place policy measures to curtail what we call cooling off, I think the industry should understand the bigger picture that we are trying to alleviate, which is keruntuhan, the whole industry. So a little bit of increment is fine, but rapid price escalation as depicted above 2009 is something that we should not and would not support. Supply side dynamics. I'm a bit, it's a bit interesting. So my graph here is from 2009 because from 2008 and below, it wasn't that bad. Now, I question mark when people say they have to cross-fertilize affordable units, because if you look at this graph, that doesn't seem to suggest that there are more units of less than 100,000, that there are more units than less than 200,000. So my issue here is that when you build houses this side, which is getting more and more now, who is your audience? Who will buy all this product? Sorry, I'm suddenly my mic is not working very well. And I'd like to discuss a bit on the issues surrounding the construction sector and how that sometimes is the reason why we don't get productivity gains that would then bring some of the housing prices down. I would also look into the structure of the productivity or the housing delivery system. And then I would look into the sales comparison approach. So there's a few items I will go through. But first I'll start with productivity. If you look at the labor productivity growth in Malaysia in residential construction sector, the total output per employee has been better. But I think we can do better, we can do more. Because if you look at the skill composition of the residential construction subsector, it's full of low skill and semi-skill. Most of you are very well-versed in what the semi-skilled and low-skilled workers are in the construction sector, so I will not go into it. But if we have a sector that is living on a competitive advantage of low-skilled workers, then we will never go into a proper high-tech and even better high productivity construction sector, whereby you could get productivity gains. But again, when people say productivity gains, and all of us in construction management would know this, I read this in Reading back in 1992, sorry, that was that long ago, whereby you have what we call the time, quality, cost triangle, but you also have another one, which then in 93, we call it the fourth bucu. Jadi it's not a triangle, now it's empat segi, which is technology. However, when you have technology, it means that your quality will go up. Your cost might go up a bit because it's not been democratized and you don't have the economies of scale, but the time taken would be less. However, within our delivery system, whereby we sign our SNP for 2 years, this productivity gains and time duration, it does not mean anything to our construction sector, because when you sign SNP, you did not buy the house build and sell. This is basically a delivery system of sell and buy. So any gains in terms of savings in time will not be reflected because you sign your SNP before that. So this is also another issue about you want to incentivize people to go into, or the sector in productivity to be in a high productivity sector, and yet the institutional arrangement, the legalities appears to support the old norm, not the new norm. So the legalities support a very conventional method of building. So this is where we need to rethink of the method we do for our SNP. This is a figure we got in 2016. I got this from SR Nazir. He would be better to elaborate on this. But what I wanted to show here is that this is an index figure. So you can see that in certain years, machinery, equipment, I didn't update this. I'm sure SR Nazir will have a more updated figure of this. So we put labor costs, material costs, machinery and equipment costs, and we have the house price of certain states. Now, ini macam mulut buaya, and we still don't understand. So some say it's land, some say it's conversion cost, but this is quite a high index to begin with. So I wonder what would be the other variable we're not looking at. At the same time, when you want to structure for better improvement of technology adoption, what would be the types of procurement or structural alliances that must be done in order for all the people or the firms in the value chain to be able to adopt technology adaptation. So when we look at the design at the front end, you design dulu, and then you tender at B, and then you construct. Now, if the design did not follow some IBS or modular structure, you can't tender and then construct then the IBS kan. So this was a big issue lah. If your design group does not facilitate the adoption of technology, then your bangunan will never have that technology. So there was another issue about, because our industry is so fragmented, who would bear the cost of technology adoption? But currently, the good news is that with the lessening of foreign labor in our country due to COVID, more and more developers and designers, the group of architects, I hope, will see that the old way of doing business, which is to use this low productivity, low wages type of competitive advantage, is not the way in which it is safe for public health in our country. So most countries have to do technology adaptation because they want to. But it appears that lihat sikit di Malaysia. But now with COVID, I think more people are beginning to understand that you do need to lessen our dependence on foreign labor, because it suppresses wages, one, and number two, it makes our construction industry will never innovate, because there's always abundance of foreign laborers for the old technology. So what I did last time was to compare we did a case studies of 5 Malaysian property developers. I signed NDAs with them, and with a developer in Philippines. Now, why did I choose Philippines? Because if I chose a group in America or this developed country, tak sama, it's not comparable. But what I wanted to show is that even a country that is less kaya than us could make innovation. So what's stopping us from doing this? But that innovation comes with a business process reengineering, as well as making sure that the support, the institutional support and legalities is present. So it's just building a house. This is not about building another KLCC or Daya Bumi. This is just a house. So what they did was they had framework agreement, material supply sector, integration of design and construction. They train their own engineers. They train their engineers train their own site operatives. From design to installation, you can read this on your own. I mean, what's happening to the Malaysian property developers. Investment in production, technology and innovation. They invest in their own product and process innovation. Is done internally and tailored to specificities of the construction site. If the site is a dense city area, they bring the molding process on site. So molding dia taklah high. I went to the site, tak adalah high end sangat, but for the level of productivity that they want. And that's the thing that I think is missing in our country, that creativity, that can do spirit, that we can actually innovate in our own simple way. But sometimes there's also an issue about innovation. The first thing, kalau things go wrong on site, a lot of clients, developers akan marah the design team. But over here, they don't. They actually support innovation. So the 8990 holdings will have internal discussion with both design and construction team in one conducive environment, because things do go wrong on site. We do know that. In terms of skills training, they provide their own training for all construction workers, operatives, because it's their own company product innovation. So I don't, sometimes I do have a chat with CIDB sometimes, last time, because some product innovation is in a way ring-fenced to a firm. So sometimes they don't want to train other people And what is the point of having a big training session for the construction industry if all firms or construction firms want to develop proprietary system? So it's like factors working in tension. But the response I got from CIDB is that they train to the basic minimum. And after that, then the firms themselves can train more. So this is very good where we have a public-private type of training being done. But also we have another problem, the transient nature of the workforce. So hopefully, I think with more product innovation being done, then more of our workforce will be local. This is an issue facing most social housing. Social housing means housing for the B10, the bottom 10 or bottom 20. And it's not the affordable housing segment. I sometimes get a little bit upset when people say that, oh, the private sector must build for the B10. No, there is a social sector. The social sector consists of the poor, the urban vulnerable in our cities, and they are being provided shelter by the PPR. Itulah social, perumahan social. Now, making housing affordable is basically a wide spectrum of, say, B40 sampai ke T90 or T100 lah. So making housing affordable is that for every decile ada rumah yang berpatutan harganya without having rumah orang kata standard macam social housing or PPR. We have to call a spade lah. Another issue I think that I would like to bring is the system we have. I've said this more than once. We need to migrate from sell then build to build and sell. I have a lot of evidence to suggest that commercial risks of building houses should not be transferred to purchasers, because even when you have your mortgage, you're not a secured creditor. When things go bad, I'm sure Datuk Zaini's project has never gone through this, but in other abandoned projects, purchasers are not secured creditors. You will not get the house, you will not get your mortgage back. So this is a system that is shifting a lot of risk, commercial risk, to purchasers. And secondly, in terms of procurement, this was highlighted in our Rethinking Housing as well, the report in 2019. If you want to do big scale innovation, for the time being, you cannot do traditional general contracting because that structuring of alliances does not adapt well to innovation. Once you have the economies of scale between all the national business system, then only you can go back to traditional general contracting where you compete on cost. But when you want to migrate to a new product, be it standard components, be it IBS, be it proprietary system, this type of traditional general contracting will not bring you the gains that you want because it is based on the lower standard. So we have to understand that when we want to do something for the sector or the industry, the structuring of that alliances must be in place as well. This is another reason why house prices is high. I think for the urban land economies here, this is 101 for you. So this might, you see, daripada saya cakap pasal teori kan, let me give you a layman punya sembang lah. So for example, if someone has, say for example, in Mont Kiara, katakan, an apartment costs 1 million. An apartment costs 1 million over there. Now, that is the current price. The last transacted price is 1 million. Mungkin dia beli, as Datuk Zaini cakap, 10 years ago, it was 500,000, but now it's 1 million. Now, if a developer comes into that place, dia beli a piece of land adjacent to that 1 million, what do you think would be the price he wants to fetch, or the pricing he wants? It would be 1 million. Bodoh lah dia kalau dia buat kurang daripada 1 million kan. Not because of construction cost ke land cost, because it's comparable to what is being offered dekat situ. So we must remember as well, there are many other things that creates house prices, the new in bill to go up. So I think that is a real issue first before the compliance cost and all these other things. And if you look at some of you, this is in all textbook of real estate, when you bid for land, you always minus from your sales price that you will get. That's when you bid for land. So the higher the existing price of existing stock, then you the more the price you give for your new stock, and then you can bid for more. Assuming construction cost you macam as Nazir cakap, taklah tinggi mana. So there's more gains there. Oh, so ini yang saya cakap lah tadi kan. So the sales comparison approach, it is a fair approach. Let me tell you that because I think I've been getting a lot of hate mail about this. I'm not saying that it's not a good approach. It has been practiced in most countries, but it can be subject to opportunistic behavior, especially when people in our country treat our housing as a stock market. And therefore, the more you sell existing houses, say saya jual kat Datuk Zaini rumah saya from 300-350. Datuk Zaini jual dekat SR Nazir from 350-400 dalam masa 1 tahun. So this type of abuse of the market can be translated in the sales comparison approach. Now, sometimes when you see the valuation from the bank and the valuation outside is very different. So we need to have a proper valuation and maybe for us to incorporate neighborhood conditions and as well as building maintenance. As you know, a lot of our stratified buildings are going into urban slums because maintenance is very bad. And sometimes the quality of building was very bad. After DLP, betul lah semua okay. After 5 years, of course not for Datuk Zaini. Swimming pool pun orang kata tiris, leakage sana sini, roof pun leakage. So all these things need a lot of, should be incorporated in the valuation approach. So this is my last slide. When we did our study, ingat tak we went to each state of all, cuma Sarawak tak boleh masuk, but we went to each state and we found out, we got some Excel sheets from the state development arm and some private developers, tak semua bagi, of actual, bukan feasibility, actual projects that they did. And I think there's a little bit of issue between the data because of course 1,000 acre punya development, 10 acre punya development have different compliance and contribution costs, different issues of planning. Kalau you memang bina dekat tempat yang dah density-nya tinggi, of course you have to build new inroads. And if you want to increase the density of your plot, of course, there's a lot of compliance costs that you have to give, especially in terms of roadworks. So these are things that I think needs better understanding sebelum kita more about that lah. Okay, I think that's it from me. Sorry, and thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed my sharing for this morning. And if you have any questions, do email me, or you can come to our website and read these 2 books. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suraya. It's a very eye-opening session. So she managed to answer what caused houses price to remain unaffordable. And at the same time, she actually addresses lots of key issues that perhaps we can delve into. So for now, I would like to invite all the speakers for today for a Q&A session. Right, so let's have a look at the questions that we have here. Let's go with the first questions that we have here for Suraya Nazir. Suraya Nazir, what is the impact of the pandemic on the material costs, especially when you presented about the material costs just now, and how do you think we can actually address the impact? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aziz. Yes, based on our data that we analyzed up to Q2 2021, there were some item shortage, especially for Perak, Penang, Selangor, Pahang, Johor, Kelantan, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan. During MCO, some manufacturers were closed as they not allowed to operate. They mean no production. Some suppliers were unable to resume production as they were unable to obtain MITI approval to operate. As many in the material supply chain were not in the operation as rendered, the essential projects either stopped work or did not start works due to non-availability of the material, which include cement and sand, steel reinforcement, ready-made concrete, bricks, plumbing, especially PVC pipe and fittings, steel and metal section, this more on metal, structural steel products, plywood and timbers. For cement, for 50 kg, price have decreased in April and in May 2021 in Peninsular Malaysia because of the market price fluctuation due to stiff competition. However, in June 2021, it was increased due to rebates which pulled back by the manufacturer. The rebates are revised daily. For steel bar and the BRC wire mesh, the price increased for steel bar and BRC due to the following reason. First, international raw material increase. Swiss canal block caused a high shipping charges, anti-dumping duty. China, they cut production due to environment issue. China also cancel tax rebates about 30% for imported products, and also a labor problem or shortage of worker due to MCO. Transportation or shipping costs increased due to oil price. We can see starting November 2020 until now, about 2 ringgit 5 cents, increase about 22%. No roll out new project or either government or the privates, and MCO 3.0, FMCO, PPN, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and the increase in steel price is also influenced by unstable industrial cash flow network. That means payment term between contractors and suppliers further affect the price of building materials for every transaction. Shortage of logistic supply due to the delay of in shipment and raw material. The market payment day are no longer and have to factor in the final cost for the longer payment days. And for others materials, the price is increase also is due to raw material price increase. And how do we address this impact? To me, I think is to address this this issue arising from pandemics are still unknown, and this is likely to continue until maybe others corrective measures are in place. Not only vaccine, we have vaccine 1, vaccine 2, now booster, but still not certain. Maybe on the global basis, we have some measure in place. And this on also not only a touch on the, I think this kind of new normal or new reality now is touched almost every aspect of the construction process, and specific such as contracts, schedule adjustments, project suspensions, terminations, occupational and safety and health, workplace safety, compliance, workforce management, materials, of course, subcontractor and supply chain delays and impacts, risk management and insurance, claim avoidance, And the last, I think, dispute process. Of course, the government introduced some VOP, but I think this is a very short term only, because the VOP only will be end this December. And of course, we need to wait some new introduction or new project that government will announce. That also will help to address all this impact. We hope that government will announce some new mega projects, not only just current projects on the MRT3. That's all that we have now, I think. That's all.
Thank you very much, Nazir. A very well explained answers to the question. Now, I'll go to the second questions we have here for Datuk Zaini. So, Datuk, in your view, how do you think we can actually do, or what we can do to expedite the recovery in the property market?
Thank you very much, Dr. Norazia. Okay, actually, if you refer to my slide just now, I mentioned that there's a very good take-up rate in first half of 2021, and it's even better actually in second half of 2021 at 17%. We really have to encourage people to buy houses to expedite the recovery. I think government also probably can assist by extending the HOC, which will end by end of the year, if they really want to, because I think for the past about 3-4 months during the MCO, I think people can't go out and buy houses, So now I think after they lift, after we have gone into stage 4, people start buying houses now. And most probably it will be quite good for government if they could extend probably another 6 months, to let people to capitalize on the home ownership campaign. What can they offer? Normally under home ownership campaign, you are given stamp duty waiver, and also developers also have to give a discount. I even know certain developers, they really cut down the rebate until a break-even price, because cash is king now. The developer need some cash flow, to invest in other things. So I think as a buyer, you should take this opportunity to capitalize on that situation. Because moving forward, as what Suraya Nazir mentioned just now, material prices has already increased. I think in terms of the impact to developer, there is a price increase of about 15%, for the material. So moving forward, price will not be any cheaper next year. So for developer, we really have to adapt to the situation, most probably by revising design, make it more affordable for everyone moving forward. I also would like to touch just now, Dr. Suraya mentioned about adopting to innovation and technology. I would like to suggest that CIDB take the lead. Actually, because everyone is reporting to CIDB in terms of we are giving some funds to CIDB also to train the skilled workers, especially in the technology adoption. Like IBS, we have been talking about it for umpteen years, but there's no really serious approach by CIDB to enforce it on developer. So moving forward, I totally agree with Dr. Suraya. We have to, embark on the IBS, and hopefully it will happen, because we have to reduce our dependency on foreign laborers. Okay, and another one is valuation by the bank. Dr. Suraya mentioned, currently, before you take loan also. valuation. Bank is compulsory for bank, before they approve your loan, they will do valuation, and it will reflect the market price for sure. Okay, with that, I end my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Datuk. Sorry. Let's move on. So Datuk mentioned about IBS. So let's go back to Dr. Suraya. We have a questions for you, Dr. Suraya, on IBS. So a project in Johor using IBS, but Japan's technology, but the GDV is still expensive to an extent and causes a higher cost compared to traditional construction. Maybe you can comment on this, Dr. Suraya.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think there lies the problem when you start using Japan's technology or expertise. In Malaysia, there's about near 20 IBS firms, and we actually have the capacity to do it and the technology know-how to do it. However, all this expertise has been utilized by our neighbors in Singapore, where most of their construction has been done via modular proprietary, now 3D. And most of the components come from us in Malaysia. So I don't think there's less talent in our country. But maybe the issue is why did we go for a Japanese technology or expertise when we actually have people here? Now, secondly, when Singapore started to embrace IBS as a nationwide method of modernizing their construction industry, it took them about 10 years. And they made sure that the talent was there first before the technology comes in, meaning they ensure that even if they had to depend on foreign laborers, it was highly skilled foreign laborers. So I think this should come in terms of ensuring that you build the pillars for technology adaptation before you bring the technology in. If you do it cut and paste macam ini, definitely the cost will be higher.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suraya. There's another questions, but I think I open the questions to all the speakers who think that they can best answer it. Let me just read it straightforward from the question. I always believe that starter apartments need not be always 3 bedrooms. Consider starter homes with even studio 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom. Allow the families to upgrade as their income range increases. Please comment on this. So I open it to any of the speakers.
Okay, I can start. I can answer this question. Starter apartment. Definitely, we have Dr. Nazir. I mean, for a developer, we have studio 1 bedroom and also 2 bedrooms apartments. But sometimes this is very seasonal. At times people want about 1 bedroom apartment, but over time this is not well sought after. So what happened is we have to mitigate the thing, and we have to follow the market demand. So supply is definitely there. Starter homes with 1 bedroom apartment, say for example for Yapis, for young generation, they would like to have something like a hotel whereby they go, they can see everything. There's no bedroom as well, so we could cater for that as well. But after they get married, they would want 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartments. And when they have families with few kids, also you really have to go to 3 bedroom apartments. So we have to be, innovative and to cater for all these categories. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Datuk. Is there any other speakers would like to add on that?
Can I add, Dr. Nor?
Yes, Dr. Suraya.
Just to bring some perspective as well in terms of the behavior of household. So we found out that household keep their houses for about 20 to 25 years. Now, is it because of unaffordability, or there is no property step-up ladder in our country? That is something we are still researching on. So I think there's also momentum, or not a momentum, a risk factor that most people feel that if I don't get my 3-bedroom now, I will never be able to afford it. So they are stuck in a place, in an apartment, without going through, as Datuk Zaini said, starter, and then you go up more once your income goes higher. But unfortunately, based on evidence, people are not able to do that. So this begs the question of, okay, how do we facilitate the housing ladder phenomenon for households in Malaysia? This is something we should work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suraya. And I think maybe you can take up another question that relates to supply and demand, and what you have just explained on the paradigm shift of the type of the home that the consumers need, and the developers, that how the developers actually integrate on the needs that, you know, the buyers actually require.
In the Malaysian, when we did the research for the Malaysian housing standards, for Malaysia, we tried to define what is a decent housing quality. Now, ini saya harap all the professionals jangan marah. Okay, so when we do standards, it's basically professionals, meaning the civil engineer, the architect especially, and those who are the building surveyors, who then say, okay, this is what's needed based on international benchmark, etc., etc. Tetapi, when we actually do proper design, when we are in a developed country, which we will be soon in 2025, we should understand the social norms of our household. So kalau kitchen too small, it's not something that Malaysians will buy. So there should be some product differentiation, but based on empirical evidence of a bottom-up approach of what standards should be. So we should peg our national housing decent standard bukan kepada GFA sahaja, but more on what does it take to make a house more livable. And we look into positive living conditions. Now, I think with a good survey or building condition, a building survey or post-occupancy evaluation, this can be done in our country. And then that is a unique selling point, even for developers, because you take into account what people actually want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suraya. Another question I would like, I think I should point this out to Datuk Zaini. So Datuk, is about capitalism, making maximum profit versus social responsibility in providing affordable housing. So the questions from the floor is that how do we realistically devise an appropriate approach so that we can have a balance of act between these two issues?
Okay, Dr. Azia, a good question. But difficult to answer. Okay. Okay, how do we strike a balance? Okay, when government, when we get approval for master layout plan, we are required, to do the affordable housing. Unlike certain countries like Singapore, I think government take the lead to do the affordable housing. So my approach is, if, say for example, we can get a government a vehicle probably to concentrate on giving affordable housing, then developers are required, to give certain amount so that government could carry out on land of the government owned, then it will be better for everyone actually. Then the government can really control. It will not be capitalism, as per se. So what happened is developer will contribute, and the government vehicle can take up to do up the affordable housing so that it is more control. And also, when government vehicle build the house, then there'll be a lot of requirements will be waived actually. So you can really concentrate on giving very good housing to the B40s and M40s. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'. I just saw that Nazir has been really quiet. Perhaps I can pass him one question personally from me. So Nazir, so you mentioned just now in your slide that some developers actually they would like to remain resistant, not to adopt the technologies, and then they will like to rely on labor-intensive construction method. So why do you think this is happening in Malaysia, especially? And do you have any suggestion on how we can actually encourage those to go upskilling or have a training, send their laborers for adapting technologies and so on? What do you think about this, Nazir?
I think because of two things, why developers still remain as resistant to new technologies. I think first is flexibility, because the humans are more flexible and adaptable compared to the machine. And the second one is, I think, is they are trying to minimize upfront capital investment. I mean, if we buy a machine, it will cost a lot to you. And to overcome or to my suggestion, I think, of course, like Dr. Suraya said in his here presentation, that we need adapt technology like IBS, modulars, and with this kind of technology, we can build stronger and more energies, efficient structures. Technology can make a construction site is more safer, worker more efficient, and is allow us to increase productivities, improve maybe collaboration, and tackle more for complex projects. I think that's all I will say.
Thank you, Nazir. Let's go back to the questions from the floor. We have for Dr. Suraya. It's on, okay. Shouldn't the government establish a single public housing entity so that we can solve and achieve affordable housing prices and contain spell? Okay, so can you comment a little bit on the public housing entity that can actually help us to solve the problems that we're having right now?
We had it before, tak berjaya. Sorry. I shouldn't say that, sorry. Okay, but let's discuss about this, okay, this view. Oftentimes we compare ourselves to Singapore. If I want to travel from the middle of Singapore to the side of the Singapore, it'll take me 1 hour. If I want to travel from KL, I baru balik dari Kelantan, Kota Baru, it's 7 hours. Now, a single entity to jaga Singapore is very easy, but a single entity to jaga Peninsula as well as Sabah Sarawak, I don't think it's a good idea. What is important is that we have proper data. So how many incoming supply should we have in, say, Kota Baru or in Greek Hulu Perak? And what is the right price range? Now that is the central unit, orang kata CPU lah, the otak, could then let the state tahu. But it's always good to have supply side proximity to the in that state. It cannot be something which is quite distant. So I disagree for execution that we have one execution body. I think it should be a lot so that it's more competitive. But in terms of the guiding principles, I think this is something that the federal can give shared direction to.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suraya, for your explanation. Okay, I think we have another one questions from the floor, but I would like both Datuk Zaini and Dr. Suraya to answer this because I can see that both of you actually explain about this in your slides. So it's on the compliance and contribution cost. So Datuk mentioned that it is one of the costs why houses remain unaffordable, and while Dr. Suraya mentions that there is no concrete evidence on that can actually help to reduce the housing price. So maybe you both can provide your view on this.
You want to start first, Dr. Suraya?
Okay, yes. Andai Datuk Zaini, so I started. Okay, so basically, as I mentioned before, Datuk and distinguished audience, what we had was some Excel sheets from many projects from states. And Alhamdulillah, we didn't just get the GDV, GDC, we got the actual contract sum, as well as some of the things that contribute to land development, housing development. And sometimes, as you know, housing development is not just housing is mixed development, and the way in which you parcel it off and the size of your parcel, as well as the density that you want to put in place. So all this, of course, create different permutation of the compliance and the contribution costs. So without having more replication or data coming from, insyaAllah Reda will give us juga soon, then there's something that we can actually buat pattern lah. Kalau kecil macam ni macam mana, kalau luar bandar macam mana, because this needs to be ironed out properly lah. Thank you.
Okay, let me answer this question. Compliance and contribution cost is part of the cost actually. So probably it will take up certain percentage. So to mention that it won't reduce the housing price is not true. If, say for example, if you can reduce the compliant costs, definitely developer will definitely reduce the selling price as well. So what is happening now, because a lot of authorities, they are working in silos. There's a requirements, being mandated to the developer on a different basis. Sometimes doesn't follow the planning requirements. So what happened is this extra cost will be calculated in the calculation of feasibility studies. Say for example, if you can reduce this cost, then definitely the cost will be reduced. I'll just give you one example, like a contribution to Indah Water. It is about 1% of total GDP, gross development value. So what happened is 1%, say for example, your gross development value is 100 million. So we have to contribute to Indah Water about 10 million. If the costs could be reduced and other costs as well, then definitely bottom line can be reduced as well. That's why I mentioned just now, if we can tackle the low hanging fruits, these are the costs that we can reduce slowly, because developer nowadays forget about getting a fat profit now. Those days we can make about 30%. Now definitely you have to reduce. Some are even putting if 10% also, they will proceed with the projects. So okay, this is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, that's very well justified. Okay, we have one more questions from the floor. It's on developers. Maybe Datuk can take up these questions as well. The person actually suggested that the profit, if we can deposit a profit into a trust fund, then we can use that for low-cost housing. Will that actually make low-cost houses more attractive for constructors? So the profit that we actually gained and subsidized from the profit that we get from medium and high-cost houses.
Okay, hold on. I don't get it. The profit must be developed in trust fund for low-cost housing. This will make building low-cost more attractive for contractors.
Yeah, it's somehow a suggestions, I think. And
okay. We take note of that. But normally, okay, if you're talking about profits made from selling the normal units, is it? Or profit made from the low cost?
Yeah, they are referring to the profit that made from the medium and high cost houses. So that
okay, developers normally don't have trust fund, to do this, but we are mandated to do the affordable homes, the RSKU or whatnot. So we got no choice, but also to do, So that is the reason why I mentioned just now the cross subsidization in terms of amount. If it happens to be that we have to build about 40,000 or 50,000, I just take example in Selangor like RSKU. Now I think Selangor government they have changed. You can convert RSKU type A, B, C, D to type E, which we're selling about 250,000. Is all fully equipped lah. Is fully furnished. So we will think of this trust fund, but definitely low cost housing, we will definitely do it lah. You know, so there's no trust fund needed, but we'll ensure that it is delivered properly to the buyer. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I?
Yes, you want to add?
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Suraya.
So I've been looking at some cross-country comparison of profit margins of even developers in Dallas, Lau Estate. It's interesting. During good times, they get 9 to 11%. But then, Datuk, you were saying that in Malaysia, during good times, you get about 30%. So it's a very interesting comparison of how housing developers behave across the world. And I think this is also one of the, I think, issues that we face when we are in a fragmented supply chain. For most developers in other countries, whatever profits they have, they plow back into R&D. But if a developer does not have a main con, then sometimes this is very difficult for them to plow back into making sure that productivity, or they do invest in R&D. So I think there's also, an issue about the profit margins as well. But of course, this is something that a more discussion would be better. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suraya. I think let's go back to Surveyor Nazir. Surveyor Nazir, talking about technologies, right? So you are with BCISM and you have the online cost data. How do you think this online cost data can actually help us to get actually accurately to understand how actually house prices actually being developed or being constructed? And is there any way that we can actually, what Dr. Suraya mentioned, to compare with any other countries on the benchmarking of the costs and prices?
You're muted.
Sorry, mute. Sorry. In terms of data or price construction cost data, yes, BCISM now is entrusted by CIDB to managing National Construction Cost Portal. So under National Construction Cost Portal, we publish our data on the material price, labor wage rate, machinery hire rates, and also produce 4 indices: material cost indices, labor cost indices, machinery and equipment cost indices, and then we compile all 3 to be BCI, building cost indices. And on also, we also include TPI. Now we have about 8 products under entry C. So this data is a collection for material. We collect and publish every month. That means starting 2012, and for labor twice yearly. Machinery and equipment also twice yearly published. Through this data, yes, you can do some benchmark, or at least it's good for contractor if they have this kind of data. They can they can plot trend. They know how the trend. Let's say, for example, STIBA. So STIBA, based on our database, I think last 2 years the price is about 1,200 per metric ton. Now they increase about 3. I think the last August. Our last data is the latest data is August. About 3,600 per metric ton. So a lot of increase there. So with this kind of data, contractor can use it maybe as a, for example, they would like to do some, of course, before they go for tender, they need to do some estimating. So how to do the estimating? The first thing they need to get of course they need to get a quotation from suppliers. But supplier they won't share just how much this STIBA now. No, they won't share that unless you have project and the project is secure, then they will give your quotation. Before that, at least you need to get some idea how much it costs stay-bar now. Then from that you can do some average, maybe composition of material, labor, and some machinery. Also, you need to add on some profits, some wastage. Also, you need to consider some labor constant. Also, from that at least you can do benchmark. So, what is the range rate now? Currently, BCISM or N3C, we are collaborating with the vendor, or we call application software developer. So we are trying to fill the gap on the BIM 5D BIM. That means currently BIM they are missing on the data cost. So we are trying to fully integration both this like currently we have about 5 vendor in the Malaysia that they provide some maybe measurement software. They also some of that can prepare a BQ. They have the software, but they also missing on the data part, the cost data. So with this technology, I think we have contractors to move further. Of course, you know now COVID, I think they will move faster compared to the. I hope by introduction the new project also we will more fast adoption of the technology. I think that's all. I would like to respond.
Thank you, Nazir. It's good to know amazing initiative by CIDB and RISM on BCISM. I think we are running out of time. We've got 7 minutes left. Maybe we can take up one last question, and maybe all the speakers can answer these questions. It's quite generic in a sense that, okay, let me just read it through. How bad actually the Malaysia's unaffordable housing crisis at the moment? Thank you very much. We can go start with Datuk Zaini, followed by Dr. Suraya and Nazir.
How bad is Malaysia unaffordable housing crisis? This is not affordable housing, it's unaffordable. Actually, you know, if you look at it, we are not that bad. If you look at the unsold stock that we have, in fact, there's a gap there because I think property above 1 million is quite easy to sell. So you know there's a income gap over there. Normally, you know, that's why we are concentrating on the affordable homes and also prices in between 500 to about 1 million. So these are the group that requires more assistance in terms of getting loans or whatnot. So moving forward, I think developers will just have to cater for this group. That's why we are revising our strategy, most probably moving forward to cater for landed property and also prices between 500 to about 1 million. So these are the majority that the people requires. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dato'.
Sorry.
Yes,
sorry. Yes. How bad is Malaysia's unaffordability housing crisis? Is very bad. It's very bad. Why is it bad? Because even the M40 needs help because they can't afford. So it's not about affordable housing segment. It's about making housing generally affordable to all segment of population. And what is the evidence of this? We did some study back in 2016 and until now that nearly 90% of household in each state, Pulau Pinang, Kelantan, Kuala Lumpur sampai 80%, are having to get government assistance in order for them to buy housing. So never before in the world 80% of population needs government assistance for housing, be it in the form of prima, be it in the form of cash transfer. But this is just saying that, I'm sorry to say this, that the private sector can't even give up to 60% of our population, something that's affordable. So the government had to come in and provide those houses to Pulau Pinang, 90% of population there. The eligibility criteria for rumah-rumah government assisted. This is very bad. Normally, in most countries, government assistance should be up until 20% or 30%, meaning covering the B40. It should not cover the M40. But in this country, it has gone up to 90%. This is a time bomb. So unless we do something about it, then kalau you tak kerja investment banking, then you will not get a decent house. So I think it's a wake-up call for everybody that we must take this problem seriously.
Thank you, Dr. Suraya.
Dr. Azia, maybe I want to add something. Okay, if say for example, like what Dr. Suraya mentioned just now, if we were to look at Malaysia in general, the property prices over here as compared to other big cities, especially in KL, you compare to Singapore, you compare to even Jakarta, our prices is still cheap, you know, if you compare to other big cities in Southeast Asia, even Vietnam. But why is that so? Because as I mentioned just now, our income level is not there as compared to Singapore, even though the prices is very high, but the currency is about three times better than our salary as well. So something got to be done, you know, at the federal level. They want to increase the salary of the people in order to make it affordable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato. And let's hear from Setia Nazir. What is your view on this?
Yes, yes. I think it's bad for Malaysia. Even you can go to the East Coast. The price also similar to care area. Even I think the main contribute is land cost. You imagine last 5 years. Maybe more than 50% they increase. You go to the Sebenyih area, about that. Before I think 2007 about 70K for land, about 50 times 18 area. Currently about 150 or 160 for that lot only. That why also we increase the house price. And of course, I think if the government can consider, like Datuk said, all the PBT's fees, that one I think we will help a lot to reduce cost. And then this one also we can build affordable housing for Malaysia. I think that's all.
Thank you so much, Setia Nazir. I'm so sorry that I could not take up any more questions, but perhaps those questions that have been captured here can be personally emailed to all the speakers, and then the speakers can actually reply to you on that, if that's possible, the organizers. So that's conclude our Q&A sessions. And to wrap up the sessions today, I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers today for a very exciting, insightful events and sessions. I learned a lot, and I hope the audience learn as lot as what I learned today. And for that, I really hope that we can gain something from these sessions, and let's pray for our property market to basically grow in the near future, despite the pandemic that we are in right now. So thank you very much. I would like to hand over the sessions back to Mr. Daniel.
Thank you again, Dr. Nazir Datuk Kion, for moderating the session. Also to all the speakers, Nazir Mohamad Nor, Datuk Zaini Yusof, and Dr. Suraya Ismail for the presentation today. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed today's session. And a recorded version of today's webinar will be available on its platform, and feel free to share this out to your peers who will benefit from today's session. Stay tuned for the next session at 2 p.m. with the topic of cloud-based contract administration system for PALM standard form of contract by Chartered Institute of Building, CIOB, Malaysia. Once again, thank you for joining this webinar. Feel free to visit our exhibitor booth, business matching, innovation symposium. Feel free to attend webinar and community exchange launch to network and exchange your ideas and sharing with the industry experts. Also not to forget our virtual engagement top star giveaway. Click on leaderboard for more details. Thank you.